Sit back, relax, and join William and Lee on their journey through the strange and mysterious world.
All right, and welcome to Season 2, Episode 29, Strange Mysterious World. This is our second to last podcast for the year. Obviously, our December one, we'll go up to 30 and then we'll be finishing off for the season. We'll be starting again in January. However, we will be having a Christmas edition. It won't be part of the season episodes, but we will definitely be having a Christmas edition. We're going to be trying to get Father Damon Urbani back in for Christmas. So, yeah, that's coming soon, guys. So, yeah, listen out for that one. But otherwise, tonight's guest, we have another alien abductee, but right here in our backyard. I think he's actually in Cape Town. His name is Fareed. And, yeah, I think he's actually in William's neck of the woods, William.
Yeah, man. Abductions are strong here. So
well, not too strong, but yeah. They're not strong with the force. They kind of...
I think everyone is walking around here like they are kind of abducted already, like they're half somewhere else.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's pretty cool. It's our like own
Whitley Strieber.
Whitley Strieber.
Yeah, probably not as much, but I don't know if they got books and stuff out and making movies. But I've heard the story because when I was with MUFON, I think you actually put me in contact with him.
I think you put me in contact with them.
Fuck, sorry. Yes, actually, yeah, that's right. Yeah, because they submitted a report through to MUFON, which came through to me. And then, yeah, that's correct. I'll then let you know about it. Didn't you put him in the documentary a little bit? Our documentary that's coming?
Yeah, he's in the documentary. Yeah, that's why you put me in contact with him. So
yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Beautiful, my documentary.
I think when the documentary came out, I wasn't grey. I still had blonde hair then.
It's coming, Lee. I've got a surprise. Don't you worry. My other documentary is going to be finished this week.
Yeah.
The rough cut's coming out at the end of this week, and then I've got some plans what I'm going to do with all 6 of them.
No, that's cool, man. No, I'm only kidding. Don't worry. I'm only joking. Only putting your leg. Right, sir.
It has been a long time. That's been a long time. I'm getting frustrated myself. Cheapest. If I have to wait for this freaking distributor any longer, I think I'm gonna be as grey as you. It might be like 30 and a bit more, just 6 feet under the ground. I'll probably be in my next reincarnation like 1,000 times over. I'll be in my 1,000th reincarnation.
Yeah, maybe what you do is by the time I'm in the ground, you're still a little bit younger than me, so you can put the in memory of these from 20 when was it, 2021 or 2022? This is like now 2040, 2045.
Yeah. It's like the world's ended. Like BB's predictions came true. We went through the Tour meteor shower in 2036.
Yeah.
The Yuga cycles ended. The cataclysms come. Everything's wiped out. But I'm standing there in like the torn, like burnt clothes that are left on my body, and I'm holding the hard drive.
No, you said, Lee, I've done it.
There's no technology left on Earth, but I've got the hard drive, and I'm like, guys, it's finished. If only we had a computer we could watch it on.
Yeah. All right. Fareed, I don't know if you remember me. We actually had a chat quite some time ago when I was still with MUFON.
Yeah, that's correct. It's a good few years back. Yeah.
Yeah. We did.
Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%, man. How's it going with you and your wife?
Good. I'm obviously, I'm staying in Hout Bay now, and I've got my own security business here, so we're quite busy. We do a lot of security escorts and film shoots and stuff like that. So we're very busy on our side. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. And then I remember, when we had our last discussion, I remember you speaking about the alien contact that you had, and I remember, I think your wife even was starting to experience things as well. So.
That's correct. That was why we were still in Johannesburg. Yeah, no, that's we're not together anymore. But I don't know. She hasn't spoken to me about any experiences that she's had recently.
Okay. Freddie, I'm trying to remember now. Was it you guys that were telling me? Excuse me there. Well, was it you guys that were telling me about your trip to? It was in Cape Town. It was one night. It was stormy. I think you guys were on your way. I can't remember where it was, but you were on your way to somewhere, and you kind of had almost like a time lapse. You had
That's correct.
gone.
Yeah.
Was you? Hey, yeah, I remember that.
That's correct. It was myself and Christo from Southport, if you remember Christo from Southport, and then Detective Warrant Officer Wessel Peterson. I haven't seen Wessel in many years. He seems to have literally fallen off the grid. We were the ones that went out to do the Sky Watch at Long Beach Mall. That was, I'm thinking probably about 10 years back, a little bit longer. That was where we had the time lost there. We had gone out to Noordhoek Beach. We stayed there just after sunset, and I think it was about 10:30, 11ish. We started seeing the mist that was rolling in. We took walks along, along the stretch of Long Beach, heading towards the little rocky area where Chapman's Peak is. And that was where we had most of the encounters was with what we called the others, the little gray beings with the big black eyes. And we separated, literally all three of us. Christo started wandering around among the mist. Wessel and myself drifted toward the rocks. We essentially just separated from there, and we were standing on the rocks. It was something that was drawing us to that area. It was, a short time had gone by, I think about 10 or 15 minutes, and Wessel kept calling out to me, and I kept calling out to him. And, we kept in comms with each other. We sort of wondered where Christo had gone to. And then we saw that, the mist itself had sort of become very bright. And we were standing on two separate rocky areas at Noordhoek. Essentially, I was looking at the ocean. We were looking up at the skies. The stars looked very weird. And when I looked at Wessel, he was no longer on the rock. It was as if he was levitating from the rock. And when I looked down at where I was no longer on the rock itself. I'd also started lifting up from the rock, and we could see the ocean and the rock, below us. And it felt like we were being pulled up into the sky. And I very quickly shouted at Wessel, and he turned and he looked at me. And the second I made, sort of that contact with him, we just gently touched back onto the rocks. That was very weird for us because we'd now started to see little beings here and there on the beach and so on. So we decided to make our way back toward the parking area, because there was at Long Beach and Noordhoek, and we thought we'd bump into Christo along the way. Christo was already up at the car, and he said he just lost sight of us. He didn't see us anyway. He called and he screamed and he shouted, and he just couldn't find us. We obviously didn't hear anything. So that period of time, we're not too sure what happened in the space where we left or we lost him, and we had this experience. We got back into the vehicle. We drove up along Chapman's Peak Drive via Hout Bay and along the coastal road toward Camps Bay. A drive that should take you probably about 45 minutes. The drive took us 3 hours. We were on, we literally drove along Chappies. We drove through Hout Bay. When we got to Camps Bay, it was as if we just left Noordhoek, but we're in Camps Bay already. We got out of the vehicle, we walked along the beach, and this is about 1:30, 1:45 in the morning, and we were laughing like hell about the stupidest things. It was the weirdest thing, because we just laughed and laughed and laughed. And a SAPS member, a member of the police, stopped, and he came up to us with his colleague, and he said, "Guys, please, we don't allow drunk people or high people on the beach, so you guys need to move along. You can't be carrying on like hooligans on the beach." And at that point, we realized we had been laughing this entire distance through that we traveled from Noordhoek to Camps Bay, and we have no recollection of what had transpired, and it seemed as if the trip had taken all of 10 or 15 minutes, when in fact hours had gone by. And it's something, to this day, that we can't explain. We just don't know what happened between leaving Noordhoek and arriving in Camps Bay, and why it took that long, because we didn't stop anywhere. Vessel checked the mileage, the kilometers on his vehicle, and the kilometers matched leaving from Long Beach at Noordhoek to Camps Bay Beach. So there was no additional kilometers traveled. But why it took that long? Yeah, we couldn't understand. There was a time displacement there.
So Fareed, when you went out there, were you doing like a CE5 kind of thing? I know probably CE5 wasn't even around then, but like, were you like intentionally trying to contact something, or did this stuff just happen spontaneously? Were you doing any kind of like meditations or what?
When we went out to Noordhoek, the intention was, that we'd get a recording of some sort of something that we'd seen there, because we'd obviously been there with Pam Puxley on a few occasions, and some of the most weird things happened on the beach when we were there with Pam. So Pam was not available at that time, so we thought we're going to go through to Noordhoek, to Long Beach. We're going to see what we encounter. Maybe we can get some audio, maybe we can get some video. Maybe something happens, and we just never expected to have that time displacement. We just couldn't figure out where we'd been and where we'd gone. Christel from Salford put something on the Facebook page, which he had years back, saying that he was a bit shocked about what happened, because he'd obviously looked for us, and it's a small space, so there was absolutely no way that we could have just disappeared, and we would have heard him scream and so on. So yeah, whether it was an encounter, whether we were taken, we don't know. The time frame itself didn't match, our trip back and forth there, and obviously what had happened on the beach with the mist and the fog, and the whole area being lit up. It's definitely something that we'll always wonder about, because it wasn't normal.
Okay.
But Fareed, you've had experiences your whole life. So do you want to start from the beginning? Like how it all started?
Well, okay. When I was young, I was probably about the first experience I can remember I was about 5 or 6 years old. We stayed in Lens, which is a little suburb area on the west end of Johannesburg, closer to Roodepoort, Krugersdorp, that area, and Soweto, the big township, was not very far from where we were. But my family wasn't all that wealthy, so we didn't live in big homes and so on. But yeah, I started having encounters as a 6 and 7 year old child with little beings that would come into the room, or they just appear out of nowhere. Little dark gray little guys. I'd say they were about 2 or 3 feet tall, with big black eyes. And at that time, I had no idea what they were or what it was, and I didn't tell anyone, because maybe my parents are going to think I'm making things up, or just being weird. My sister had encounters with them a few times. We sort of moved from one home to another until we eventually my parents found a family home, which was closer to Eikenhof, just outside of Lens, closer to Eikenhof in Johannesburg. And that's where the encounter started becoming much more, where I'd see these beings come into the room at like 1, 2 in the morning. They'd wake me up. I was a child that built a lot of Lego, Lego bricks and Lego, anything with Lego. Building it was fabulous. And then I'd find that they'd move some of the Lego items. Sometimes they'd take things of mine, which I could never understand. They would take little things that I made and they'd go with it. Sorry. And one of the this happened over a period of time. At one point, I spoke to my mom about it, and she said, "Oh, it's your overactive imagination." We found out very differently later on in life. On my 10th birthday, the area that we stayed in was still very sandy roads, and there was trees and forest areas close by. and as children, we were warned by our parents not to go into those areas because the guys are staying in there and they don't want something bad to happen to you. On my 10th birthday, my dad gave me a wristwatch, which I put on, and once everyone left from the birthday party, my dad asked me to get on my bicycle and go down to the local shop because, obviously we stayed very far from where the stores were, and, all the kids recycled, and it was a nice little quiet community there. And my dad gave me some cash and he said, look, just go to the shop and get some bread and a couple of other things for the house because my birthday party was very small. So everyone had left and we're done. I got on the bicycle. I left the house. I think I left just before 4:05 or so. It was in the afternoon. The shop was literally a kilometer away. So you could actually stand on the corner of where we were and look at the shop down the road, further down the road, which is where the other houses were. I remember on my way to where the shop was, I looked in the forest area, which was across the road, where we were told by our parents that kids are not allowed to play there because there were people living in the forest. Nonetheless, on my way to the shop, I saw something come out of the sky. It looked like an egg-shaped item, a thing that was very bright and glowing, and it literally just landed in where the forest area was very bright. And we're now leading into dusk in the evening. So I saw it come down and something just drew me to it. I went down to where the main road was. I got off my bicycle and I walked in among the trees, and I remember walking into the light. It was very bright white light, and I walked into the light, and that was it. The next thing I remember, I was at my front door at the house. My watch had gone that my dad had given me for my birthday. I had the money in my hand and the bicycle was next to me. 2.5 hours had passed by. The police were at the house. My parents and the neighbors were looking for me because I had gone missing. I'd literally been missing for 2.5 hours. It's a small community, so you can imagine everyone's, my parents talking to the neighbors, they call the police, and everyone's out looking for me. Strangely enough, nobody went into the forest to look for me, which was very weird. And I don't remember anything at that point. I didn't remember anything. So obviously my dad just beat the living crap out of me because where have I been for the past 2.5 hours? The police were there, the hell of a thing, and I thought, oh God, I have no explanation. My mom never told me about her encounters when she was young, which then obviously led to becoming my encounters as her firstborn child. And that we found out later on. Yeah. So, after that one big incident, as it were, when I was 10 years old, little things started to happen. Sorry, you were saying?
But they stole your watch. So these are
my wristwatch was gone.
They're South African aliens.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, so my watch was gone, which was very weird. So either I lost the watch or they'd taken it or something. And then, moving on from 10 years old to 15 and 16, we had a lot of encounters at the house. Myself and friends were playing outside one Saturday afternoon, and there was a huge metal ball that was hanging over the house. My mom came out and she saw it and she called us inside, and she said we needed to stay indoors until the thing left. But we obviously, every opportunity we could get, we went outside to look at this big sphere, this metal ball hanging over our house. The neighbors' kids came out and they saw it, and we all thought it was just fun watching this thing hang around in broad daylight, like 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday afternoon in Lanes in Johannesburg. And it was there, and then it shot up into the sky and left. And it's one of those things, we carry on doing what we do. We had an incident one evening. It was a Sunday evening. We had something that looked like a meteorite or a fireball that had come over the house and gone into a farm not very far from where we were in Lanes. We then all got on our bicycles and we took a ride up there. And it was early in the evening, about 5:45 or so, and all the kids took a ride up there. We saw a lot of policemen where that was. I think it was a meteorite that it entered the atmosphere and struck the ground there. So it was on a farm close by there. They sorted that up. But, post that event, we started having a lot of encounters in the house. The beings that were moving around in the lounge, they would sometimes hide behind the curtains. Sometimes they'd literally open the door just a bit and peek into the room where I was. And then it stopped for some time after I moved from Johannesburg. From where I stayed in Lens. I went to police college when I left school. And when I came out of college, I was stationed at the police in Hillbrow. So I worked a lot there, and I had to travel between the two. Eventually, I moved to stay in Hillbrow, Berea, Yeovil, because it was closer for me to work at where I was a police officer. So it made a lot more sense. I also started having the encounters there with things coming into the room at like 2 or 3 in the morning when I was not on a night shift. But I started to get used to them. I refer to them as the others, because that's what they were to me. They were from another place, and they were never there to harm me. It was always just giving me insights and giving me what do you call it? Sharing
But
knowledge and sharing information and so on.
But none of these incidents with the others, so nothing.
Yeah.
Were you having those incidents because you started off saying you were having incidents and sometimes your sister had incidents? Was that before you saw the egg and went on your bike there, or did that stuff only
That's correct.
afterwards?
That's correct, yeah. That was for that year or two. And then after that, it started becoming more commonplace. And then obviously, because we had sort of multi-denominational religious matters at home. My dad was Muslim. My mom was Catholic. And then obviously she became Muslim when she married my dad. So when I eventually spoke to my parents about this, my mum shied away and she didn't want to talk about it. We discovered why later on in life. My dad called the Muslim priest the imam, because there was something wrong with me apparently, because I started seeing little creatures in the house and little things that look very grayish and they look like clay model things with big black eyes. And I started drawing pictures, and I showed my mom and I showed my dad, and I said, this is what I'm seeing and this is what's coming into the house. And so my dad decided we need to call a Muslim priest to come and check me out because I might be possessed, which I definitely was not. So so that whole thing played itself out, and we had a lot of encounters at the house. We had a backyard area where our dogs stayed, because obviously there was crime in the area where we lived in, but not much. And we were out. There was one evening, my dad and myself were outside. We were giving the dogs food. It was just after sunset, and this huge black craft of some sort went over the house, but huge, just covered. I would say it covered 3 or 4 houses. It just went over the house. Everything was just completely dark, and it moved on. And my dad said, "Look, that's not normal. There was no sound. There was nothing. It was just a big black craft thing that went over the house." My dad would travel quite a bit. He's passed on a good few years back now, but my dad would travel for work between Johannesburg and Cape Town. And during that time, my dad traveled to Cape Town once. He came back from Cape Town to Johannesburg from work, and I think I might have given you a drawing, if I didn't, about what he saw when he was just outside of Kimberley. He said there was a craft that followed his vehicle for a while and then just veered off into the farm areas. He stopped at the local police station, but I can't remember where it was. I'll check again because I have those notes somewhere. He stopped at the local police station and he told the SAPS members there, the police members there, that he'd seen this thing on the side of the road. The policeman said to him, we get calls about it regularly. The truckers tell us people see lots of weird lights in the sky in the Karoo, so it's one of those things. So my dad started paying a little bit more attention to that. And then years later, when I left Johannesburg and I went to Cape Town, I came back to Joburg again. I had a long chat with my mom. During I think it was 1967, there was a huge UFO incident that had taken place over the town of Albertsville, which is just a suburb next to Johannesburg. It was all over the media. It was covered by the newsprint media. I think the Star newspaper covered it. That school children, adults, thousands of people had seen what they called a mothership, a thing with two saucers put together that was hovering over the mines in Albertsville. And the kids threw it at school and so on. It was very big, all over the media in the 60s. My mom had a very strange encounter. She shared it with me as I got older, and she said that on the evening that happened, she was drawn from inside the house to the outside. She looked up at this thing in the sky with all the neighbors, all the kids, all the parents were looking at it, and she said she felt drawn to something that was in the craft, as if something was looking at her. And obviously that then, the craft disappeared. She carried on, and as she would as a child, and then she explained to me that she had started having encounters with beings that looked a bit human and others with the big black eyes. And she was told when she got married to my dad was when the encounter stopped. And she said she had the last encounter she had was with the being explained to her that it would now go from you to the firstborn. It's a lineage thing. So it's not you. It's not just you. It's somebody in your family prior to you. And when you give birth to your son, which they said would be a son, and obviously she just married my dad, so there was no indication of having children. And she said they had told her that she was going to have a son, and the son would then it would be the continuation of the lineage, and the visitations would start with me, which it did. And with me was the same thing. They told me that it would continue with my son, which it did for a short period of time, and then it just stopped. So yeah, it seemed like it was a very this is how it works, from what I understand from what's happened with me, and what's happened with some others as well that we've spoken to over the years, is that sometimes it's family, it's a lineage thing. So it'll either skip generations, or it'll just continue one generation to another. And there's no particular reason for it. They've explained to me as an adult that it's like experiment. They just watch what you do. They watch how you behave. They learn. My one encounter with the Greys here in Cape Town, I was told very simply that it's like when I take fish and I put them into a fish tank and I watch what the fish do. That's what they do. They observe and they pay attention to what we do and how we behave and our life patterns, and this helps them understand better. But there are other things that they do that they don't explain. So yeah, quite a bit.
You also said, sorry, you said that you didn't remember anything when that first encounter with the craft, when you were a kid with the bicycle, when you stopped the bicycle on the side of the road and you ran into the woods to look at that egg. You said then 2 hours passed, you came home and you had no memory of it, but you said you didn't have any memory then. So what did you have? Did you get a memory later on, or?
Years ago, I'm sure I mentioned to you before, myself, Pam Puxley, and a few others, including Wessel Pieterse and a few residents in Cape Town that had strange encounters and so on. We had gone to see somebody called Dr. Christa Hall Stanford. She was a person based in Constantia. She did regression hypnosis. And Pam and myself and Wessel went to see her. I think we were a group of 8 or 10. And she then took us back. She did this with each person individually. And this was where I discovered what had happened with me when I had gone into the light. But then coming, I've just got to bring it into perspective. Prior to that, I was still a policeman in Johannesburg. And I think it was the Saturday I was off duty, and I went into Sandton City. At that time, CNA was still a very big thing there. And I walked into Sandton City, and I walked up to where the your natural history books and so on. And I walked past a book with a picture of an alien grey on the book. It was by Dr. Whitley Strieber. And I picked up the book, and it just still gives me the goosebumps, because I just went cold, and I thought, there's a book, somebody's written on it, and it's on the shelf in CNA, and it's got an image of the same thing that I see every single day, as I saw every single day as a child, and I still see every now and then as an adult. And I eventually bought the book, and I read through it, and a lot of what he said had sort of resonated with me, because I understand the encounter that he had up in the cabins and the encounter just outside of New York and so on. And the way he explained that ball of light that you get into, that was what eventually came out when we had the regression hypnosis with Dr. Stanford and Pam. That I had gone into this thing that looked like an egg-shaped craft. And I'd gone into a room with a lot of other kids. And I remembered through the regression hypnosis, children that were Chinese, there were kids there were black kids, there were white kids, there were Indian kids, there were kids of all colors and races. Obviously, as a child, you don't really see that. And there were these things, these gray things with the long legs and the big black eyes, and they were touching everyone. There was lots of toys inside in a circle. And I remembered picking up a fire truck, and I thought it's really nice. I would like to take this with me. And the being said, you can't do that. There was what we then eventually started to refer to as the Blue Doctors. I think Chris Whitley had the same description of them in his books and in many of his interviews. Was the little guys? They look very weird. Their faces are very grotesque, and you can see it's a costume of some sort, and there's something in there. And they come and they prod and they poke and so on, but they're very friendly. They want to laugh and they want to, make these little. They have clicky noises like pieces of metal that you rub together. And then it's the taller grey ones that focus in on you. So for each child that is in this room or this space where they take you to. Each one of us have what they term as a guardian. So that's the one that's been with us prior to being born here, prior to existing here as a human, and that will exist with us here in the human space until we leave this and move on to something else. So each child is given or assigned one of these guardian greys. The color tends to vary a little bit, and then that's the one that telepathically gives you the messages. I'm coming to visit you with this. I'd like you to see this. I'd like you to see that. One of the most disturbing things that in the encounter I've ever had with him is that they have this image that they show you constantly. It looks like a very large television, and it's pictures of the world exploding and people dying and famine and just the entire human race just being dead. Just the planet burns and the oceans boil and all this. And they keep on with the same message. Even now as an adult, it's always the same message: is your people, your human race are responsible for this. This is your inevitability. We're showing you all of this, and we're showing not just you, we're showing hundreds and thousands like you, so that you can change it, so that you can be the change. And Pam always used to say, if they could only understand that we live in a human society, we can't just go be the change all the time. We need to pay rental, we need to buy groceries, we need to put petrol in our cars. It's not that simple for us to just go and be the change. We have to live as people. We have to live as humans. And they don't seem to understand that concept very well.
Why do you think they care about that so much?
For some reason, they have a big interest. From what my personal encounters with them is always that they've been here long before man existed on this planet. So they've been here all through time, and they've got a vested interest in what we do. And their interest sometimes involves governments and people in different spheres of government that can assist them in doing things. They did make it very clear that they're like our species. There's not always good in them. They have some of them that are here that have been here for millennia, that have ulterior motives. Things like control and putting themselves into places where they can influence government, where they can influence decision making, and so on. So not everything is good. It's a balance of existence. But they don't look at us as a very older species. When we were taken back and forth on many occasions, being taken, as I would say, they make it very clear to you that you're a very young species compared to other beings that inhabit the many universes that they travel through. And we're a very young species, so we haven't lived as many hundreds of thousands of years as others have. And they do make it very clear that they travel between time. What was interesting for us and on the various encounters that I've had with them, and it's sort of like this. I can be in a room and I can talk to it, and it's standing there, or it's there, and I can ask it a question and it will give me an answer. And if it doesn't want to give me an answer, it tells me this is not for you to know. Your brain can't fathom the answer to that. Like when I asked about God, I said, you've got me. I've got many multi-denominational faiths in my family, but and that's challenged my faith in the belief in God, because people say, mankind is made in the image of God, but then what are you? Because you certainly don't look anything like what we do. And their explanation was that we have God. They call it the source, and they say everything comes from the source. And when you have left this plane of existence, you return to the source, and the source will decide whether you're going to go someplace else, or you're going to be something else. Is it in this place or someplace else? One of the things that they were very that they talked about a lot, and I see, I've been in contact with Dr. Stryber over many years, and when his second book came out, which was the one that discussed the school as they call it, which is where we all get taken to, and we get given knowledge that we're supposed to do something with. I don't know. I'm in the security industry. I'm looking after people and I'm keeping people safe, and all this knowledge sits there. But what are we doing with it? I honestly don't know if I'm doing anything that they want me to do with it. But they did. They impart that they're with you. They monitor you, and they watch and they see what it is that you do and so on, and they learn from us as a species, but they also interject in certain things that could be to our detriment, not as a person, but as a species. And they discussed a lot of things about time. One of my questions always, and this kept getting answered with a piece of paper. So they would do that. They take a little piece of paper and they'd say, "We come from here, and you were there. So in your mind, you have to travel that distance. We don't. We simply bend time. So A and B, you don't have to travel from A to B. You just put A and B together, and that's how it is." And they say that we've had the technology for many years to do that. And for some reason, mankind just decided that this was not going to be the way we work.
Wait, so you say that we've had the technology for ages?
The bending of time.
Yeah.
No, they've obviously said that we've had the technology for centuries. It's been available here on this planet.
Yeah.
With
And for some reason we don't want to use it, or they don't want to use it. Yeah.
For us now. That have been able to bend time. For some reason, with everything that's been discovered, and it's very clear their culture of being able to move from one place to another and come back, and not being physically negatively affected by it. So from what I got from the others, or from these beings, was that this technology has been here all through time, and it was brought here to this planet, to this place of existence, to allow others to step up in the hierarchy, and they did up to a point, and then it stopped. And for whatever reason was, it was a decision made by people to stop doing this. But they are very clear that we still have the technology here, and people are still using it, but it's not being made broadly available. So my encounters with them has always been just, it's learning. So there are times when if you talk to my partner and so on, she'll tell you that there are times when I will sit with her and I'll say to her, we're going to have a visitation tomorrow morning at 2 or 3 a.m. because it's a telepathic thing. You're told that tomorrow morning at 22 minutes past 2 or 33 minutes past 3, we will come to you. And there's things that you must be told, and there's things that you need to learn. And this still happens with me. I have encounters on a regular basis with him. Sometimes you feel a bit strange when you're back in reality, if you want to call it. You feel out of sorts. You feel like you've been outside too long, or you've been in a place where there's been too much light and so on. But it always comes with some sort of message that this is happening and that's happening and that's what's going to take place and so on. I've never understood why people get chosen for this, and I've asked Pamela Puxley, shame, bless her soul, she passed on a good few years back. Pam had many encounters here in Cape Town where she stayed in Wautuck and Komiki. She had many encounters. She would call me sometimes at 2 a.m. and say, "I've just had the greys in the house here." And I said to her, "Yeah, they've just been by me as well." So and then we'd obviously meet with other people who were interested and we'd be discussing about what we saw and what messages had come through, etc.
Fareed, quick question. Yeah. So there was two things the one thing that you mentioned there was the time. So you said 22 minutes past 2 or 33 minutes past 3. So we actually had a podcast not too long ago. We were talking about angel numbers or these specific numbers that keep popping up into, like 444 or 4 4s or 2 4s or 3 3 1s. So are you saying like the times that they kind of set for you are these kind of special numbers? So it'll be 11 minutes past 1 or 22 minutes past 2 or okay.
That's how it's been for me always. It's always been that way for me. When we discussed it with Pam and Vessel and everyone else, we discovered that this was a common thing. Because eventually we started paying attention to it. It just seemed like it's a random thing that it's always the early part of the morning. But when we started discussing it openly among everyone else and in the meetings we'd have at the Alpha near in Constantia and so on, we discovered that among most of us, this was a common thing. It was 11 minutes past 1, 22 minutes past 2, 33 minutes past 3, 4:44, 5:55, but never beyond 6 a.m. It would always be just that period of time, but always with those specific numbers. And I've never understood why. I don't know if it's a thing with them or it's a thing with us. Don't know, really.
Okay.
So
and then sorry, Will. Yeah.
Oh, no, go for it.
No, I was going to say the other thing the other question I wanted to ask you was the you kind of asked you said something earlier about you were wondering why it was you that's kind of getting all these things, but I can't remember actually where I was listening to this, but they were saying that 80% of human beings actually at some stage or the other have actually had some sort of encounter, but they don't remember it for some reason. A lot of people, whether they, whatever technology is being used, their memories get wiped for whatever reason it is. That maybe it's kind of traumatic for them, and this is the reason why they don't remember. Or they kind of just block the memory of these type of things. So they reckon probably 80% of the human population have all experienced this at some time. There's very few that actually there's very few that can record, and those that can remember have got some sort of almost like not an immunity, but some sort of they're able to record it because they're a little bit more advanced in perhaps their reincarnated states or whatever it is. They've unlocked a little bit more of an ability to remember these things and see deeper into what really is.
Correct.
There. Yeah. So that's
correct.
Yeah. That's interesting.
No, it is so. That's what we when we started doing a lot more investigation with Pam in the years before she passed on. She was working very closely with Elizabeth Clara who passed on many years prior to all this happening with me, but nonetheless. Pam was actually involved in many in investigations, not just in the UK but in South Africa as well. And one thing that she also discovered through the investigation period, and with the people that we spoke to over time, was that people remembered having an owl an owl sit in the window, or an owl sit on an electric fence, or a bobcat, or a very big, large feral cat with big black eyes that would sit by the window and then jump off. And a lot of people had that memory, but didn't look at it deeper. Go into why the animal was there. Why did it choose to come and sit on your window, or was it just a like an image that was left there to make you feel comfortable and to not allow you to remember what happens? Some of the stuff that they do is it feels very weird, because it's like these little things that pop onto your head, and to read memories, if you want to call it, and then they question, why did you do this? Why did you do that? Why did you make this decision? And so on. And there's obviously things that they don't want many people to remember, so they block it out. And it's that little shock, like an electrical shock thing to your head, and suddenly you're back in bed, and you remember having a dream of an encounter with some wild animal, or you went to the window and there was an owl in the window and you closed it and the owl flew away. And that seemed to be something that they did constantly. And that with me, it happened on a few occasions, but on many occasions for myself, it was just they were there, and there was an interaction. A couple of years, it's now not a couple of years back, I lie. Last year, I contacted Whitley Stryber, and I told him that I found another one of his books at a store in Gordons Bay. And I sent him a picture of it, a picture of it on the beach in Gordons Bay, and I said, "Yeah, I've got your book, and I'm going to finally get to read this one." And he contacted me back again on email, and he said, "That's really great, because we've been in touch for many years on and off, and I skipped a period of time." And he asked me if I was having the same encounters, and I told him I still do. And he asked me what I intended doing with my knowledge that was given to me, and I said to him, "I honestly don't know. At this point in my life, I'm living, where I've got a business to run, and I've got to earn an income to pay for everything I have, and so on. But all the knowledge that they give you is still there. What they want you to do with it, what they want me to do with it, honestly, I still don't know." I share my stories with a lot of people, which then helps other people to come out and discuss their thing out in the open. Because, I mean, honestly, that's, you don't just generally walk around and tell people you're in contact with extraterrestrials from another world, and people think you're mad, man. So, you've got to be cautious. And I think this is why a lot of people just keep their things to themselves.
But is there like some event that they are prepping you for that's going to happen? I mean, I know you talked about the end of the world kind of thing, but they kind of said that we are responsible for that. But is there going to be some cataclysm or some huge event that they're preparing you for, and then when that time comes, then you'll know what to do to like help others, or...
To be quite honest, I don't know. I mean, I've had those things happen to me since I was like 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and I'm well over 50 now. So. The world hasn't ended yet, which is great, because that means I can still go to work tomorrow. But for some reason, they keep showing these things to us, and they show it to the younger people that they're visiting now, and people that are being taken. One thing that was very interesting that came up a few years ago was the question of people being taken that are not being brought back, and they were very clear that certain people are taken. And they're permanently taken. They've got a purpose somewhere else, in some other place in time, and that I couldn't understand, because it's time here, and it's time in some other place. But they've always been clear that we don't understand time completely. We've created the 12-hour clock. We've created the 365-day year. We as humans have created this. But this is not the measure of time. It is not the measure of time anywhere else. And they've been very open about the fact that they take people in different places. People go for a walk and they never come back, and they'll remain missing for the rest of time because they were taken. one of the things that came up with some of the people that we chatted with over the past few years, as well as people discussing folks going missing in North America, in Canada, in very remote areas where it's easier to pick someone up or snatch someone or abduct someone if you want to, and the person just goes missing. There's hundreds of thousands of people that are still missing that will never get found because they've been taken to some other place. They don't generally give more information about that. They just tell you some are taken and they will never return, and they're taken because they have a purpose somewhere else. But yeah, the big screen images about the world ending and so on. It's not just me. It's hundreds of thousands of other people that have experienced the same. But there's no time frame as to when this happens. It's not like it's going to happen tomorrow. It's going to happen 10 years. Maybe it'll never happen. Maybe it's a scare tactic. God knows. But they keep showing the same image: is that this is what happens to the world, and you are responsible for it. You are responsible for this. It's not us. It's not other people. It's not other beings. It's you. You as humans make decisions, and if you make bad decisions, this is what happens. So that's what I've obviously that's been my experience with him, and from the questions I asked as an adult, that's always been my answer. And obviously with Pam, when we chatted with her long before her passing on, she had exactly the same thing. She asked the same questions, and she was told the same thing. We are responsible for our destiny as human beings, and the more we continue to deplete the planet of its resources, eventually it just cannot, it can't cope with the amount of people on it. And that's the reason for all this implosion and so on, and world wars and people killing each other. But yeah, that's been basically it.
And then sorry, I was remembering something that you were saying now. Sorry, Will, you wanted to ask something?
No.
I'm sorry?
No, there was something that while you were talking, it popped up, but I'll remember again now. I can't remember now. It just kind of
So,
left my
Fareed,
head.
when was the most recent incident you've had, encounter?
Oh, I think last month, it's again the Opus 2, Opus 3 in the morning type of thing where you get the feeling that it's there. It's that feeling. You wake up instantly. You know that it's there, and then it's for a period of half an hour. It's just it's not more a physical encounter, then more the presence is there, and it's telling you I'm here, or we are here. It's a collective thing. We're here, and we need you to know that we're still watching and we're still doing this, and there's still many things to come that you need to experience in life. And the reason why all this, the balls of light in the skies in Cape Town and the various sightings that people are having is because they're visiting a lot more people, and they're getting to impart a lot more knowledge, and they're getting to learn from a lot more people as well. But the question I've been asking, and I still ask it even as recently as last month, is why not intervene if you already know, or in some way you know what our future is going to be? Why not intervene in it? Since you're traveling in time, you know where we're going to be, you know where we are now. So why not intervene? And the answer is always the source doesn't allow intervention. You are responsible for yourself. You must do what you must do, and you must decide whether you want to do the right thing or not. And that's the same message I get all the time. And I've messaged Whitley recently, and I told him the same thing. This is what I keep getting from them.
They are kind of influencing. They are intervening by contacting people. There is kind of sort
Yes.
of like a intervening.
It's sort of an influence in some way, yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah, but how much do people actually believe that? You know what I mean? So it's always, as much as they might be into, they might be kind of abducting or taking or whatever it is. A lot of people don't believe it. So it's always kind of put in a back burner, and it didn't really happen. But the thing that I wanted to ask you was, why don't you just do a book? So if you got all this, if you got the knowledge that they've given you, why don't you actually just write a book? Just write a book.
Yeah, I've never thought about doing that. Life has just been about work and work and work and work and work and more work. And, you're working to pay this and you're working to pay that. And I've never really thought about sitting down and doing it. Whitley said the same thing to me last year when I contacted him just on a random occasion. He said, please take the time out, man. You must let work be done by somebody else. Take a time out, spend a whole month, write everything that you've been given and everything that's in your mind and put it onto paper and give it to someone. Somewhere what you write is going to resonate with somebody else, like it did with me when I saw his book at CNA at Santon City all those years back. It was a shock for me to see that someone else had gone public about what I had been keeping quiet all these years. And I read the book, I got in touch with him, and it opened a lot for me, because then I realized I could speak about it without being people making fun of me and being ridiculed and so on, because I'm not the only person. Many others are having the same experiences.
Yeah, correct. I mean, even if you sit and do 4 pages a day, I mean, by the end of the year, you would have enough to
yeah,
to do
absolutely.
something. So, yeah.
No, I should. Must make the effort in time. Must find the time to do it.
Especially if there's certain information that's been given to you, it's probably, like you said, it's on you to pass it on. It's on you to, as a human being, to pass it to the human race, because a lot of people are in the dark. They don't know. They don't know what's going on. So it's certain lights or certain people that reflect that light, that show the people what's there and what needs to happen, where to go, what to do, because a lot of people don't. You need lighthouses. You need lighthouses.
That's true. And then maybe again, by sharing that information, you find that other people become open to it. Like when we were doing the UFO investigations and stuff with Pam, we noticed that when we placed ads in little parts of the newspaper, and we said we're having a meeting at the Alphen and so on, we'd have just random people sitting in who weren't comfortable talking about their experiences, but wanted to listen to what others had said. And you could see, when you said something, some heads were nodding like, that's happened to me, and I remember that. Maybe, in so doing, you're passing on information, but at the same time, you're broadening the circle. You're getting people to talk about it more often, and getting more people to share experiences. Because I'm sure it's like you're saying, there's hundreds of thousands of people with experiences that will never talk about it, because they feel people are going to laugh at me, and my family's going to think I'm crazy, and my colleagues at work are going to think I'm insane, and so they keep quiet, and they keep these things quiet. But it's a continual process with them, that they just don't have anyone to talk to, or they don't have an outlet to share it with. So maybe definitely it's something I must look at doing. But I will make the time.
But anyway, you being on this podcast is kind of getting that message out anyway. In a little
absolutely, definitely.
So
look, there's always ways to do it, but I think it's important. I think it's important to
true. Very much so.
Yeah,
absolutely.
But I think that's it. Thank you. Thank you so much for that. I really enjoy always listening to that, your experience.
It's only a pleasure.
Okay.
Yeah, Fareed, thanks, man. Much appreciated for your time.
It's only a pleasure. Thank you, guys. And we will, we'll definitely catch up again soon.
Okay, fantastic.
Awesome. Can't wait. Have a good evening.
Thanks, guys.
All right,
have a good evening.
Cheers. You too. Bye.
Ciao. Bye.
Bye.
Oh, sorry, dude. Anyway, that was pretty interesting. Our own South African abductee. So I think it was. And he's been in contact with Whitley, so which is quite cool, because we spoke to Whitley last week, so that was not last week, a couple of weeks ago. That was interesting, dude. What did you think?
Yeah, it was great. I wanted to ask him, but then I didn't know if I should have. But it's funny, because I've been doing the CE5 thing. Like, I want to make contact so badly, and it's like, because I remember I did a CE5 for. Well, I told you that time when I was in Montague. I was doing the mermaid documentary, and I was in Montague, and I was editing with this girl, and then we went outside and we looked up at the stars, and I just said in my mind, I was like, if there's anything out there, just show me. And then all of a sudden, this flash of light appeared, like in the sky, exactly where I was looking. and it went
Yeah.
into like a little ball, but it was about the size of a star, but like more bluish, and then it just started moving across the sky, and then she was seeing this as well. So when she saw the flash, she was like, "Whoa, look at that! Whoa!" And then she was like, "Look, it's moving, it's moving." And then it turned around and it came back. And then she was like, "Look, it's turning around, it's coming back." And I saw it, and then it went faster, 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 and it flew over the horizon. And then another one came shooting over it like a horseshoe. And like
Yeah.
it was like, "Whoa!" We were both like in awe of this. And then so that was amazing. Like I just asked and something happened. But then after that, then I was trying to do CE5, and I did it for like every single day for a month, and I didn't see anything. And then like now I did it for 10 days in a row, and then I eventually saw something. But it's quite exhausting because I go outside and I meditate for like half an hour, and I'm doing this whole thing, and then I'm looking up at the sky. So like I'm trying so hard to have this contact experience, and he's just having it like daily, or like, well, not daily, like when he was a kid daily, but like he's just having it like all the time. And it's just funny.
Yeah.
Why does it make it so hard for some people? And like, so I wanted to tell him, like, well, next time, just tell him to come over here and say hi. Next time you have the experience, go like, "Yeah, well, William at so-and-so street." I'm obviously not going to say my address here online, but
Yeah,
send
you
them
get
that
some
way.
Men in Black visiting.
Yeah, but anyway, it's interesting. Actually, I wanted to ask him if he had any experiences like with
Nah, I don't think so. South Africans don't tend to get that Men in Black stories.
yeah,
I don't know.
trying to survive.
We're a nation of people that don't really believe in that stuff. I think there's a few that do, but I think most of us we're still very Afrikaans church goers, and all that stuff is evil, and you know what I mean. So I think we as South Africans are still stuck in that era.
So if you don't believe in it, the men in black, they don't come to your house.
No, I don't know. I think that's a phenomenon that happens in America, because I think I think it's a governmental thing. I don't think it's an alien thing. I think that's from the government. Because you must remember now, if you listen to David Morehouse, he was talking about a lot of the alien sightings that people have, especially in America. He reckons 90%. He was saying that it's all our stuff. It's our own stuff. It's our own. When people are getting abducted, it's us doing it. It's for whatever experimentation that they're doing, it's us. The UFOs are seeing, it's us. So when people are talking about it, it's actually the government that go in and threaten them. It's their own governments. It's their own people that are threatening them to tell them, "Listen, just keep it down, and you didn't see
Because
this."
they're like experimenting, like
On
pretending.
their own people.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. So that's why it's not really a big thing in South Africa. So it's quite interesting, the discussion with him. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay, cool, man. So
But yeah, anyway, man.
see you next week.
Yeah, let me end it off then, guys. Cool. Thank you very much for listening to our South African abductee, Fareed. And we'll chat to you next week for the last episode for the season until 2025. And then that's it. Thanks, guys. Have a good one.
Cheers. Bye.